The main thing I'm going to do today is just take everyone through the infographics we've created. There's 5 of them that speak to design in the exhibition industry specifically. But we've had a EXSA Connects before, and I think the facts of design in this industry are that exhibition companies are designing at risk. There's different categories of clients. There's long-term clients, which are sorry, I'm just admitting more people. There's long-term clients where relationships being built and the risk of design is very low. So it's not an issue. It's not a case of sort of forcing design fees down those clients' throats because they're going to be recouped in the project costs. Then there's kind of website inquiries that come in where clients are asking you to design them a stand, and you may be one of multiple companies pitching. That's kind of what this is all about. As you know, the cost of having a designer or a design department is huge. If you factor in legal software, you're looking at things like Adobe Cloud, which is 50 to 20K a year. Whatever 3D software you're using is probably anything between 10 and 30K a year. A mid-level designer is easily 30K plus a month. So an annual cost of design, of having a designer, along with the hardware and software and everything that goes with it, is in the region of 450K at best. So if a designer is working on projects with a hit rate of, let's say, 50% and produces 2 project designs a week, we can extrapolate that the company is spending 225,000 Rand annually on projects that don't succeed per designer. And depending on what your gross profit margins are that you work to, you needing to do multiple hundreds of thousands of rands in turnover just to cover that cost, and that's before you made any profit, any cost of sale, anything. So if you had a studio of 4 designers, let's say, you're looking at 900K a year direct cost that you're losing on projects that don't culminate in anything. So it's extremely expensive. Designers, I think it's often overlooked as it's an expense. It's just like this hole of money. We got to a point internally here where we were pitching on these projects with 8 or 9 other companies pitching, and it was just becoming completely unfeasible. I mean, so we've enforced a process internally where if it's not a long-term client that we have a relationship with, and it's an inquiry straight off the web or via referral, we're very upfront that in the event a client doesn't go with us, we do charge a fee for the design. It's not excessive. It's not as if the design is going through the full design phase right up to producing the project. It's the concept phase we're talking about. So what our reps tend to do is, before any design starts, they'll show them examples of previous stands that have been built, and give them a ballpark indication. So it could be a modular system style build, it could be a custom build, and the reps will obviously work with stand examples that we produced in the past, whether it's a simple, medium complexity or high complexity stand, and give them a range of the budget. The client then has to sign that off and agree to pay the concept fee if they don't proceed with the project. And once that process has taken place, then we will actually start on design. What we're finding is that the clients take their booth a lot more seriously if they know they have to commit. And ultimately, I think doing pitches not at risk will lead to better design and ultimately better projects. There's a lot of bog standard back wall and front pillar custom stands going out there masquerading as design stands, and really stands like that. I don't understand why a lot of the time they're being done as custom MDF structures. They could easily be done using modular systems, using Xboard, whatever, you know, and that kind of speaks to the carbon reduction drive as well. So I think what I will do is let me share my screen and let's have a look at some of these infographics we've created. Just need to figure out how to share my screen. If anyone's got any questions at any time, just let me know. Just shout if you can't see my screen. So we've created a series of 5 infographics. I'm just going to full screen this. And the idea with these infographics is that they become tools. So not only for us in the industry to use when approaching clients with design fees, but a lot of them are also, it's an educational thing for clients. You know, I'm sure you've all had briefs from clients which are just shoddy to say the least. And you know, a lot of them don't know how to brief a stand. They don't understand a 3D environment. You know, they're coming to all of us as the experts. So I'll quickly run through these, but designing an exhibition stand consists of a number of steps. You've typically got the brief. That's the starting point. It'll include things like the size and orientation of the booth, preferably the available budget, which is often not the case, key messaging, purpose of attending event, and so on. From the brief, the AE or designer would discuss the design approach and requirements. The designer produces a draft concept. The AE would typically cost it prior to it going to client to make sure it's on budget. And then a proposal is put together. That is then presented to the client. And it's typically at this stage that we would want a client kind of full commitment to the project. Often there's changes from that round. You know, new marketing has come along or new messaging has come along, whatever. And so you get to a second round of changes after the first round of changes. Those rounds of changes can obviously get a lot more than 2. I mean, we have lots of projects which go into many multiples of adjustments. And once everything's approved, you get into the technicals of how everything needs to be made, and so on. So it's a pretty straightforward process when you write it down on paper like this, but we all know it's anything but simple. It can be very complicated. And obviously when you're doing complex stands like double stories, it becomes a lot more intense. When it comes to approaching design fees with prospective clients.
Sorry, can I ask a question before you go any further?
Sure, Simon.
Okay, so you've got a client that comes to you, gives you a brief. You go out, you spend a good couple of days on this design, the whole toot.
Yeah.
The client, then you say, right, if you're gonna go, if you're not gonna go with us, we're gonna charge you for this. So he says, fine, I'm not going with you guys. So you charge him X amount.
Yeah.
What's to stop him now going to your opposition, if I can put that in inverted commas, and taking your hard work to them?
Yeah.
And they build a stand according to your drawings. And this could carry on. Sure. You know, how long is a piece of string? This could be a continuous thing that clients come to you because you've got damn good designers.
Yeah. And
how are you going to stop this? That is my first question. Well, that is a question that's been bothering me for a while.
Well, look, but like I was saying when I was introducing, before we got into the infographics, what we're doing now with new clients that we have never worked with before, is we are taking them through a series of photographic examples of previous stands, sort of pinning them down on the style and type of stand they want. We are then producing a quote based on that, and illustrating as well what the concept fee will be. should they not go with us, and they need to sign that off before we even get to design. And that we find is working very well. That's not going to stop them taking our design later on and farming it out. But as we've seen on the WhatsApp groups, I mean, I've been putting designs on those WhatsApp groups when they get sent to me, and I know other people have as well. And I would hope that by kind of formalizing this approach within the industry, more and more people, when they get sent other people's designs, will contact the companies responsible for the designs, or put them on the WhatsApp group if they can't ID who it is. I can typically look at, if a design sent to me, I tend to know who it is. Like, I know if scan stuff sent to me, I know it's theirs because they've got those long LED lights on their stands. So there's pointers where you can figure out who it belongs to. And then, you know, we're all in this industry together. So it's actually to all of our benefits to call out clients that do that. And the more people that do call them out, the less it's going to happen. Henriette?
Oh, as I said, the only thing that bothers me that is the minute the client pays for something, then he automatically thinks, okay, it's now mine. I can do with it as I see fit.
Well,
am I right or am I wrong in saying that?
That's part of the negotiation, and it actually comes up in a later infographic. But when you're designing, with the design fee, you know, you need to negotiate with the clients, like, will they just be paying for the design and the design company retains the IP, or will the IP pass to the client? And that needs to be part of the conversation. So if the IP passes to the client, then fine, they own it. But no doubt they would pay a higher cost than just the one-off cost for just a concept that went nowhere. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, thanks, bud.
Yeah.
As I say, and you know where I'm coming from when I say this, there are some players in the industry, regardless, who don't play ball. They play with a square ball and not with a round ball.
Yeah, sure.
And yeah, I think somewhere along the line after this, we've got to sit down and also work out how we can still, in a way, own, what's the word, have a copyright on your drawing, regardless whether he paid for it or not.
Yeah, again,
but that's maybe for another discussion.
Yeah. I mean, again, that's part of the negotiation up front. If the client wants to own the IP, they're gonna pay a higher fee, and that's going to be negotiated up front. So, Henriette?
Yeah, you've pretty much answered my question. It was basically also to do, like, saying, if a client has paid for the design, then surely it does then belong to them. But as you say, you know, it could be sort of two things. So it could be, here's the design fee. If you choose to go with the manufacturing and the build, then the design fee would be X. If you choose to not go with the build, but you want to own the design fee would be a different figure, which is more. And then they own the intellectual property of that design and can take it to whomever they want.
Exactly.
Yeah, so because that's, I think, the thing. If people pay for the design, they would automatically believe that they own the design. And I think it's just to be clear to say, this is a design, but still the IP belongs to us. Or this is a design and the IP now belongs to you. So
and the fees would be vastly different as well. The one is time based to cover your design team's cost to company, and the other one would be owning a product, which is the design. So yeah, two different things. Nick?
Yeah, thanks, Liam. I think just to reiterate what you just said, there is the fact that those two design fees are very, very different. You know, the time spent in actually the IP that is generated in a concept design technically actually always stays with the company and with the designer from a legal perspective. But should you negotiate, you can obviously negotiate that out, and that design or that cost is far higher than just the concept design. The concept design is, you know, let's give you something which is something that will work for you. But when it comes down to the actual the IP, that's owned by the company, unless there's a big fee that's put in there, because that's actually where the I mean, as you say, Liam, you're paying R500,000 for a design every year at best. There's large costs that come into there, and that's, as you say, that's just the mere cost of designing. It's not actually the ownership.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, by way of example, I mean, we're doing a design for an offshore company at the moment, and they've stated up front that they are going to put it out to other people to quote on the production of. We will also quote, but the design of that is being done in the knowledge that we may not get the production, and therefore the fee for that design is much higher. And they were completely fine with that. It seems to be more accepted. Now, this is a European company, but it seems to be more accepted there than here at the moment. So that's a good example, actually, of this. But to all of those points, you know, how do you approach the subject of design fees? The industry WhatsApp groups, classic for this kind of stuff, especially when Chad gets going. But like, just like a lawyer or plumber doesn't work for free, you know, they're even charging for initial consultations. So too should exhibition stand design companies be standing their ground on billing for design, and especially time spent. People's time is by far the biggest expense of my company, and I'm pretty sure it is for everyone else as well. So it's very important that that cost is covered. In terms of approaching clients and how to sort of go about it, and this is by no means fixed. I mean, it can be very flexible, but you need to state very clearly and in advance when receiving inquiries that your company does bill for all design work, irrespective of whether the physical project proceeds or not. And you need to be clear on the design costs. So have prepared documents that clearly outline the costs associated with design fees. And then also what we've just discussed is be clear on your agreements with clients as to who retains ownership of the designs produced. If a design that you produced in Culminate is going to be built elsewhere using the same design, be very clear on whether the client may use the design you produced. And to that point, have prepared clear and concise T's and C's that cover all those aspects. The what to bill is quite a tricky thing to work out, and I won't share this table today, but I think I have shared it in the past. But I've tried to create a table of suggested billing rates based on stand size and complexity, so that it can be used as a reference point. And it's kind of the way I've done it is I've broken it down into 3x3 stands, simple system stand, mid-complexity system, high complexity, simple custom, etc., etc. And I've tried to sort of put hours to how long each of those would take, and therefore what the respective bill should be for the concept. So I need to do a bit more work on that, but I will formalize it, and hopefully it can be published along with these documents. In terms of creating a design fee movement, my hope is that by having these prepared documents to show clients that design fees are an industry, you know, that, sorry, let me just read this again. Use EXSA's prepared documents to show clients that design fees are an industry-wide set of guidelines and that other companies adopt a similar methodology. So the more companies that adopt this philosophy, the quicker things will change. So the idea being that if you're trying to say to your client, like, I'm billing for design, and they go, oh, no, but I can go elsewhere in the industry and get this done for free, you've got a reference point to come back to. You've got documents published by the Exhibition Association that says, look, client, it's not just us trying to rip you here. This is an industry thing, and here's proof in the form of well-prepared infographics and documents. So yeah, I'm hoping that these infographics will be useful for dealing with clients. And the other thing just to say is that in most of our costings, we incorporate the cost of design into a project margin. So it's important that the clients understand that the design fee is not an additional cost. They've always formed part of the budget. And all that we're doing now is we're just highlighting it up front in the event that they don't go ahead with the physical installation. So yeah. Move on to the next one. Now, this is a document that if I was a client, how would I want to brief a supplier for an exhibition stand? Now, I've obviously got the advantage that I've almost been 3 decades in this industry. So like I know a bit about what I need to know when designing a stand. You know, the clients, when they're briefing, they should compile a brief. There's extensive documents on how to go about this and what sort of information should be included. And there is a link out to a PDF showing that. But my first step as a client would be research. So if I need an exhibition stand, I'm going to Google search and I'm going to look for exhibition companies. I think that they look good on their website. I mean, you can tell a lot from a website. If it's organized, if it's got current work, you can see what style of stand the guys are doing. You can also speak to the organizers of the event that you're wanting to participate in for their suggestions. It's not always a Loctite that, but it is an option. And then speak to associations such as EXSA, AXA, and so on. So any marketing manager of any work should have no problem being able to compile a decent brief of what's needed. They should know their company. They should know why they're going to the show. They should know their budget, and they should have the ability to do basic research. So, and again, if I was a client, I would identify, let's say, 3 to 4 agencies that look like they're going to be a good fit with my company. And then ask them to present their credentials. Moving on to credentials. So yeah, invite the agencies to present credentials. It'll quickly isolate the agencies that carry a similar ethos and style to my company as the client. The design agency would also then present their terms for the concept fee at this stage. And pitching credentials costs very little. It's portfolios, it's having a Skype chat, that kind of thing. Then once that stage is done, I, as the exhibitor, ask 2 to 3 agencies to pitch for the client. Now, the client's budget should allow for the covering of all participating agency concept fees, which should have been quoted in advance. Once the pitches are done, then the winner is awarded based on whatever criteria. The winner then carries on with the project and the design updates. The losing agencies are paid the concept fee, and everyone's happy. So in our ideal world, that's how I feel clients should handle finding events companies. Now, one of the big tricks with design is that not all design is equal. We produce designs in a PDF format. We design in SketchUp, and then we render in Enscape. We would typically produce, depending on the project size, multiple rendered views. You would produce a plan showing sizes, you would show elevations, that kind of thing. I have seen other presentations out there in the market, and some of them can be quite basic. This is where it gets quite tricky, just purely because is one design better than the other? If someone's just exporting SketchUp views, should they be charging the same as someone doing a full-on set of rendered presentations? So it's very up for discussion on what those presentations should be. But to my mind, they should be as photoreal as possible rendered views, a proper plan of the stand showing sizes and spatial relationships, and then elevations showing heights of stands and that kind of thing. The design should also be to scale and should be logical in the use of space. A good understanding of spatial planning and logic should be clear from the designs produced. In the event of more technical booths, aspects such as LED walls should display a clear understanding of the space and technical requirements of such features. And the same is applicable for booths that have rigged structures overhead or a double story. Double story booths should be presented along with the details of the consulting engineer, in my mind, who would be responsible for the technical sign-offs and load bearings. Then with the costing, again, you know, it's how long is a piece of string. We tend to overcomplicate our costings. We like to line item everything. But it helps us get our heads in the game as well. And hopefully it just shows the client that we're actually thinking about what we're producing. Types of software used, I mean, there's a wide variety out there, and they can include but not limited to SketchUp, V-Ray, Enscape, Rhino. Some people still use CorelDRAW, and then Adobe Cloud, Illustrator, Photoshop, etc. And then, Simon, this comes back to your point on enforcing your IP. As you know, there's a lot of designs are getting shipped around. I mean, I get once a week, I get an email with someone else's design. Like I say, most of the time I can identify who it is. So I'm just admitting some other people. So if you get sent someone else's design, what do you do? So the first step is, can you identify the original creator of the designs? Generally speaking, each agency has a quite a unique presentation style. I mentioned earlier, like if it's a scan design, I know it's a scan design because I can tell by the LED light. Or if it's Kerry at Brilliant Branding's design, I know what their designs look like. Most of us know each other. Like we render in a warehouse, for example. And it's a very specific warehouse, and it's different to indoor environments that other people render in. So there's those kind of call signs that you can pick out. And those sort of key points are quite important, because often the client will screenshot a design, eliminating any branding, which is, I think they're being super sneaky, but it's actually just fraudulent. So if you know who's produced the design, what I normally do is I just mail it straight to whoever I know at that company. I say, this has been sent to me, what's the deal? If it's not immediately clear who it is, stick it on the industry WhatsApp group. There's been lots of examples of that recently, and it's worked pretty well, I feel. And it's one of the real key benefits of the industry WhatsApp group, is trying to eliminate this kind of practice. Yeah, so often what I'll do is if I get sent an email, I'll just forward it straight onto the agency, and ask them what's happened. I also would typically ask the client is if they have paid for the design, and that either normally leads to radio silence, or yes, so-and-so produced it for us, we have paid them. And you know, then it's really not an issue as long as it's confirmed that they actually did pay them. But one of the other issues with the industry is when clients miss sign-off deadlines. This happened. There were a couple of shows last year where this happened, and I was sent someone else's design by an agency. The agency stated that no, so-and-so can't produce it because we missed their sign-off deadlines, but we've paid for the design. But when I contacted the company, they hadn't paid for the design. So, you know, that comes down to educating the client, you know, and so on. But, you know, ultimately, if we're not going to be loyal to each other when companies are sending us other people's designs, then, you know, as an industry, we're going to continuously remain fragmented. I mean, there's more than enough work in this industry to sustain everybody. There's absolutely no need to produce other people's designs. Just in terms of marking your designs, a lot of people don't like watermarks, even though that's one of the suggestions, just because it kind of interrupts the visual visual of what you're looking at. But have a good copyright clause on all your designs so that if a client does do it for you, you've got legal recourse. Have a unique design style, whether you're rendering in an environment or just whatever quirky things you as a company do. You can PDF protect your documents as well, where only the client has the password. You can watermark. But the most important thing about protecting your design is having a good industry relationship with people, so that if you get sent stuff or if they get sent your stuff, you're communicating. That to me is the most important thing. So I'm just going to stop sharing. Okay, so those are the 5 PDFs we created, and the idea, I think, with this Connect session is just to have a discussion around them. What I want to do is, or what I want to have done is to put them on the EXSA website as tools. I did pick up 1 or 2 spelling errors as I was reading through those. Yeah, so that people can download them, they can direct clients to them, and they're just available as a general industry resource. Leanna, just seeing your comment, what many members do is say they will be doing new designs and not use the sent designs. So if they're doing a new design, Leanne, then there shouldn't be
I've explained, sorry,
Yeah.
if it's a little cryptic. So what happens is if some members that have contacted me have said that they've been sent a design or they've been sent to a quote to business, but there's designs attached to their quote.
Yeah.
And as you say, you can see whose design that is. The person or the company that is quoting will say that they will not be using those designs. They will start the design process from the beginning.
Yeah.
They'll look at a concept, but the designs will be their own. They will not be copying the other company's designs. That's what I mentioned that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, look,
So
if I could send someone else's design, I mean, I don't even consider designing for that client, because if they're prepared to send the other lot's design to you, they're going to be prepared to send yours to someone else. I don't know. There are clients like that do that. I find that very weird. But yeah, the best kind of client is a long-term client, one that you have a good relationship with. These clients that sort of come out the woodwork and send you someone else's design, I don't know, to me it doesn't seem right saying that, okay, but I'm going to design something else. It's like, why have they sent you the design in the first place? It seems strange. Well, they should rather send you a brief for a design, because as soon as you have sight of someone else's design and the client's saying, well, I like this and I like this, but I don't like that and that, well, you're kind of plagiarizing a design already there. It kind of gives you an unfair advantage. I don't know how anyone else feels about that, but that's just me.
I agree, Liam. The bottom line is what you're technically doing is you're trying to kick that can down the road. It's kind of, in my opinion, is you're trying to make yourself feel better about the situation, where it's like, I'm taking that design, I'm quoting on that design, but then I'm going to design something new. So the client, so technically what's happening is you're quoting on a design, or you're winning the business on a design which you're not going to use, which makes no sense. Because when they go back into the business and they've got to get those costs approved by whoever has to approve them, they're approving on that design and that cost. Now you come with a new design, new cost. It doesn't make sense. So my personal opinion is that's a cop-out, because what you're doing is you're trying to kick that can down the road. And I think from my side, I'm being a little bit harsh, but the challenge is that this is what's happening here is clients are blatantly breaking the law. I mean, it's we're all trying to say it nicely, and I appreciate that in the industry, because we're trying to, we don't want to upset clients and we want business and things like that, and I appreciate that. But the bottom line is that by doing what they're doing, they are breaching copyright law. And the team who's quoting on it is breaking it as well, because technically what they're doing is they're taking someone else's concept, taking someone else's design that spent time and effort doing it, and they're reproducing. And, you know, if you want to just get philosophical for a second, what goes around comes around. So at the end of the day, if you're going to be doing that, and I think it's to your point, Liam, if you're going to be quoting on other people's stuff, and that's what your client is doing, you know that that client is going to be doing that with your stuff as well. So
100%. Of course they will. They're not going to be loyal.
No.
Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, you know, if everybody starts being a bit harder with clients about, you know, not stuffing around at the beginning of the design process and just, you know, accepting that people are not going to design at risk, then it would make life a whole lot easier for everybody involved, and the client would get a better product. At the end of the day, I mean, there's a lot of stands being designed out there, which, you know, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, and probably guilty of it as well at times, but it's pretty bog standard stuff, and I think it's happening because, you know, people, it's like a fast food culture. Everything's become a fast food culture. The guys are just spitting designs out, hoping some will stick, and sometimes they do stick, but they've got a 30-40% hit rate, which is just madness. Whereas, you know, if you just slow down and you focus on a design, you're going to get a better design, you're going to get a better stand, and everyone's going to end up a lot happier. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this is a design industry. You know, what's being put out visually as an exhibition stand, I feel it's important that it has to look good, it has to be functional, it has to really appeal to people, and it's got to speak to the client's brand, which honestly a lot of what's out there doesn't. Yeah, Henriette.
Hi. So, I mean, agree with everything that's being said. I think this is obviously a problem that's been carrying on for well over a decade, and not something that's going to go away very quickly. But, you know, I think if everybody does work together and have the same sort of moral values, it could get there. What I wanted to ask is, from, you know, you speak a lot about, you know, the clients, their ethics, and, you know, what would be good business practice from their side, and the organizers, you know, have quite a big input when it comes to that, because they are the ones who are signing these clients up to the shows. Yeah. So what is the organization doing to try and encourage the organizers to then also encourage the clients, you know, to follow these sort of guidelines?
Yeah. Yeah, no. Look, I mean, what is noticeable over the last 6 months to a year is the relationships with a lot of the organizers with EXSA is much better. The specialized, especially, you know, Leanne's very involved with them. Informa, Hive Group, you know, they pushing EXSA members just because they've had disasters on their shows with stand bills, and showing them or bringing them into the fold with you know, the concept of design fees. How we do it's going to be quite important, but, you know, they're already punting EXSA members because as a member of EXSA, we should hold ourselves to a higher standard. In terms of, we cannot drop bills, you know, we cannot not deliver stands, and so on. But yeah, it's a tricky one, Henriette, but I don't know how much the organizers can actually do for us in this regard. But I do think it's important that they do know about it, because at the end of the day, they want a good looking show. And you know, if clients are getting garbage and their show is not looking good, it's to their detriment. So, yeah, it's as Gary says in the comments section, you know, if the clients know they are engaging in a professional industry with ethics and standards, they're going to be a whole lot more at ease as well, and it's just going to be better for everyone. Steve, in the time you could have typed this, you could have just commented.
That's what I've just asked him to do.
Steve, unmute. Steve must be on a call.
Sorry, I'm all free. Hello, guys. How you doing?
Steve, you will?
Yeah, I think just I don't know whether everyone can hear me. I think in terms of obviously the whole design thing at the moment, we are fighting very much of an uphill battle. A couple of the comments that you actually made is when you're presented with a design from an alternative company, a lot of the times they've actually taken out the masthead of the company. There's no watermark behind. The responsibility of you getting that design and now stopping and thinking, hey, have they paid for it? Have they not paid for it? I've just brought in my comment section at the moment is that one of the major problems we are having in South Africa is the lack of time of obviously producing work. I'm currently overseas at the moment, but in terms of the production that we actually do overseas, there is not one reliable, good quality company, and for example, in the UK, that will smell my work if it's under 2 months to the actual project. And I'm talking about a 6x3 stand, a 10x10 stand, whatever it is. They're not even going to smell this project within 2 months of the project going live. So bear that in mind, is that when we're dealing with the South African situation, it is all and appears to be getting worse by the day, lastminute.com. The international clients that we're actually dealing with the local shows at the moment have all briefed me months before this expo's actually happened. But the South African companies all seem to, I mean, we've just done one now that was briefed on Friday, installed on Monday in Santa Convention Center. It seems to be a bit of a norm, and the problem is all the responsibility and the accountability ends up on the exhibition company. And now for you to try and negotiate design fees and to understand whose design that actually came through and have they paid for it, have they not paid for it, it gets really, really complicated. I personally think that there is a comment that you made earlier, Liam, insofar as there is enough business in this industry to go around. Yeah. And the question is that we've got to try and get our heads up there to stop taking on work and designs and that sort of thing for the sake of turnover, as opposed to for the sake of the quality of what the Exhibition Association stands for. So if we're looking for quality people, and you've mentioned this, with the organizers are now punting exhibition companies because they're looking for quality shows, we should be aiming as an association to be doing the same thing on both the designs and the planning of these for clients. Yeah. And I know the design thing is only part of the process, but you know, I think that there are a lot of things that are involved in the planning process, and you know that the graphics that you actually put up there are stunning, Liam, because it all says, you know, get the proper brief, get the estimation. The way in which we try and do this is we try and get an indication from the client. Sorry, guys, if you don't mind me talking. Okay. We try and get an indication from the client, and it all boils back to, we've just finished a website for another client recently, 2 weeks ago. And one of the things we did is they came back and said, oh, you know, we want a website. And we actually basically threw the concepts, designs, fonts, ideas straight back at them. And they obviously appointed us as the company to, in fact, do it. And we went back to them and said, you do the research, you find me three websites you like, give me what you like about it, what you don't like about it, give me the fonts you like, give me the color you like, give me the type of pictures you like. And that took them days in order to get to us to give us the proper brief. And maybe that same idea needs to be worked on the design of an exhibition stand, to alleviate the problems of getting a design out there which is either right or wrong because the client hasn't briefed you correctly. Yeah. And it all boils down to the timing and the planning of the projects that we actually do. And in South Africa, we're taking a bit of a back step because we are reactive on this as opposed to proactive. Just some thoughts there, Leo. Yeah, no, good. Simon, I'll come to you now, but yeah, Steve, I 100% agree on South African clients. I mean, to be honest, I avoid a lot of the shows where it's South African clients, just because they're such high maintenance. As you said, late. I mean, you get a brief on a Friday and you got to build on Monday. That's insane. You know, we won't touch it. But the problem is other people will.
and it probably won't be up to scratch, and the client will moan, and it becomes a fight. And it's the quicker people stop taking on clients on those kind of deadlines. I mean, I understand that in some instances people need to chase turnover because, I don't know, it's been a bad year or whatever, but a Friday billed on Monday is ridiculous. Couple of weeks is even ridiculous. I mean, Steve, you're probably working on a stand or two at AfricaCom. You probably got briefed in March. You probably signed off. As a lot of our clients are. For some reason, the internationals, they just get it. They're a lot more organized ahead of time. And I'm pretty sure every other person who does stands here will say the same thing about local versus internationals. Simon, you had your hand up.
Thanks, Liam. You know what? We're going to throw this around forever. We've been talking about this for months. Well, as long as I've been involved with EXSA, and I won't say as long as I've been involved, as long as I've been a member of EXSA. And you know what? Let's call a spade a spade. Stuff it. Let's just go for it. We've got to start charging these clients. We can talk and throw this around forever.
I think a lot of people are, Simon. I mean, I know, for example, Nick definitely does. I mean, Charmaine had the comment. Charmaine's also in the comments section, basically same thing. So, people are starting to do that. And I'll bet the people that are weeding out the problem clients pretty quickly. And it's probably just a whole lot more sane for everybody. I mean, and to Steve's other comment in the comment section, it'd be interesting to see what the office and retail interior design companies do. They all charge for design. They're all
of course they do. Yes, for sure.
IID, and because the IID is associated with the Architects Association, their fees are government gazetted. It's illegal for them not to charge. I mean, the long-term goal for EXSA has got to be to align with those companies, but with those organizations, but that's a long-term thing. For now, it's about just getting people to start engaging clients, to start engaging clients regarding what it actually costs to design something and how they should be going about briefing. And that's relatively simple to do. Because, if more people start taking that sort of process on board, the quicker things will change.
Just to back up what you were saying earlier about our international clients stroke organizers. From years ago, having worked with working with internationals, they're steps ahead of the organizers that, for instance, that we've got here. I won't say all of them, but there are a lot of them. And there are some organizers here in South Africa that believe they are untouchable. And unfortunately, they are the ones that are, how do I put it? They're the ones, in fact, that we've got to educate and get them onto our side. I think everybody that's on this chat will agree with me there. And until we get them on board, we're going to be fighting, flogging a dead horse.
Yeah. It says, John is in the comments saying, until the more in the industry are doing it, nothing will change. And I think that's part of the reason for doing these infographics, is so that they're visible online. And this is an EXSA spearheaded initiative, so that when people do want to engage with clients like this, they can show clients that, look, it's not just us, it's the industry. But yeah, I agree. I mean, more people need to be on board with this kind of concept, and then things will really start to change. When clients start to be limited to the, I hate calling them the Bucky Brigade, but because they do have value, a lot of them. But when they are limited in terms of who they can use to produce a stand, and they're not getting a good outcome, things will change. That client will make a change because they're going to be forced to, because their boss has come down on them because their stand's shoddy and not complete, or whatever the case may be. So, yeah. Leanne?
Thanks, Liam. Sorry, mute was a problem. Yeah, Simon, to your point with the organizers, I agree with you 100%. And I agree with everybody. South Africans are always last minute, and it doesn't just cause design issues, it causes structural issues as well, because everything is a rush job. But just to give you guys some indication where there have been design problems and design issues, and where there's copyright or designs have been copied and people have brought it to EXSA, we've sorted it out quickly. And people, as soon as they get confronted by the fact that they're using someone else's design, they backtrack very quickly.
Yeah.
And that is something that we found the minute I have confronted anybody on behalf of an EXSA member, there's been a very quick retraction, change, and a backtrack. So we've made inroads in terms of the fact that I'm not afraid to go and approach somebody and say, this is somebody else's design. Why are you using it and not redesigning it, or anything like that? Or why are you doing what you're doing? It's a question that gets asked. So we are finding that the results are pretty positive, and I think once people feel that they're caught out, they won't do it again. So it's just about that catching them in the act. So the more people that red flag it to EXSA, the quicker we can get to it, the quicker we can get it resolved. And the last one that we did between Liam and myself, it was resolved in a day.
Yeah.
No issues, no problems, just a phone call saying, listen, guys, you can't do this. This is wrong. You're going against the law. So please bring it to us and we will help you if that's what you are needing. If you need the intervention, we're happy to do it. That's my 5 cents worth. Thanks, Liam.
And Nick?
Yeah, thanks, Liam. I think the one thing just to state here is that it's challenging when you first start. I mean, I put my hand up to that. Is it's not just switching, flicking that switch. It's nerve-wracking. You're looking at it and saying, I've got these designers, I've got the team around me, and now suddenly I'm going to flick from doing all this work and keeping people busy, and everybody's very busy, to the point where, like you said, 50% of the work is now suddenly not coming in. So it's very disconcerting up front. But to your point is that very often, and we had a much worse hit rate than yours, so I'm really glad yours was 50-50. Ours was a bit worse than that, where, I did an assessment on the number of designs that we had internally, and we literally had almost 900 designs that hadn't been paid for.
Yeah.
And yes, our designers sat around for a couple of months, and the AEs had to change their thought processes and how we address clients. But at the end of the day, effectively our costs remain the same, and our income remained the same. And the designers, interestingly enough, our quality of design increased. So to Steve's point, Friday, Monday, that's not, there's no time to design and then still build and still get it right and put it on site, sort of, as Leanne said, with any certainty that the thing's going to stay up and not hurt someone. So for all those reasons, the quality increases. And from a business perspective, we haven't seen any reduction in that. So I think, for all those reasons, just for those who are nervous to go down that road, it really takes a bit of grit, and it takes a little bit of trust in the process. But once it's actually going, the quality that comes through, and the team's a lot happier as well.
Yeah, and you start to get a feel as well for clients in terms of are these guys taking a chance? Am I just the third quote? And those kind of things. You start to develop a bit of a sixth sense about it, as do your reps or your AEs. They could start to see the wood for the trees. And as soon as you can weed out, the guys just taking chances, then you can spend a lot more time on a specific design, and therefore your designer can output a much better design because they've had time to think about it, research, etc. That's what I'm finding. I find the designers, if they've just got that bit more time, where they're not having to just churn designs out, you get a better product.
Yeah.
And that increases your hit rate.
Yeah. And client experience is so much better as well. You've thought about, you know, the potential of how people move on the stand versus, you know, just slapping up some signage, because that's really what it boils down to, is the designs that get churned out are really just, where do I place my signage? Whereas when you actually think about the positioning, you think about, and you've got more time to then think about the engagement mechanism. So what does that look like when it comes down to WhatsApp functionality, or it comes down to QR codes, or it comes down to, you know, whatever really exciting engagement mechanism that can happen on the stand. And I think that's really where the creativity comes into it. And it comes back to giving a proper quality product. My personal opinion is Friday, Monday, there's no quality in that. That's just, you know, slap a couple of boards up and roll paint them, and put some signage, you're good to go. That's not an engaging design, and that's almost like the client has just been instructed to spend money, and they're spending money. That's not what we want for the industry either.
Yeah. Leanne, sorry, quick question. The comments column, does that, this might be a stupid question, but do the comments get recorded as part of the recording?
Sorry, I didn't get a lot of that, Liam. You went.
Yeah, the typed comments in the comments section, do those also get recorded with the recording?
I'm not sure if they do, or if we have to just maybe take some screenshots. Oh, Jackie
I think
says
they
it
get downloaded as a text file.
Yeah, no, that's cool, because there's a lot of comments. So
yeah, I was going to take screenshots of them actually, because there's a lot of good stuff there.
Yeah, John, Shay, it sounds like you're having a nightmare with that client.
John, if you need assistant shots, we'll maybe just put like a quick team together and see how we can help.
Yeah, some clients are like that. Just I don't know what it is. Like every small change, they want to have a re-render. It's just madness. I mean, it's minor adjustments, you know.
And rendering time takes a lot of time and a lot of PC power. You can't have it running in the background.
Steve, we can do a quick Zoom poll on the EXSA member group. That's not a problem. We just got to structure the questions in a certain way. If there's anything that you and Liam specifically want, and Nick as well, if you can just send it, if you want me to put it on, or if you want to do it, it's all good, but we can do that too. It's no problem at all. It's there, let's use it.
Steve, did you see we did a survey a while back. That's what kind of kicked off this whole thing, on design fees. Have you seen that? I can send it to you if you haven't. It does make for some fairly interesting reading.
No, I didn't see it. If you can send it through to me, it'll be great. But I really think, you know, a lot of the time what we're saying on this Zoom is that we're actually talking about the problems, which we all experience and we all are in this business experiencing. But I think it's important to understand, you know, with the internet, we deal with a lot of international clients. And I think the international clients, when they brief us, there is a scenario that it is expected and it's chargeable by them to charge, for example, an American agency to charge their American clients design fees, whether it's being used in America, Europe, or South Africa. So that is an expected norm based on the amount of production time or planning time they do for an event. When it comes to South Africa, and when we're getting a lot of the international work coming in saying, can you quote for this one, or you are in a pitch against another 8 people, 8 companies, and they give you the basis of a brief. And the question is, do you do that work or not? And we kind of have steered away from that. And I'm just giving our personal sort of basis where there is very little in a brief that they give you insofar as CI standards, what they've done in the past, what's worked for them at a show in Las Vegas or Germany, and what has been successful, et cetera, et cetera. So I believe that if a client is kicking the tires, so to speak, of any company they're finding on the EXSA website or on the internet or whatever, and asking you to do a brief with a hello or dear sir, it sounds like a Nigerian 419 scam. So, but we do get them as part of the business. And it also happens in South Africa, you know, where they don't actually have a situation of, you know, in the good old days, they used to phone you up and say, Liam, hi, do you mind are you the right guy? Can I send you a brief on this one? And you can have a conversation with them and say, these are the expectations I need from you as a producer. I need your CI. I need to know what's worked for you, what hasn't done. So I think it's going back to, I think Nick actually mentioned a situation where we've got to just stick with the quality along the way. And EXSA has got to have this brand stamp that has actually sealed that you are EXSA and you are there for a quality guarantee project at the end of the day. Now, and John's issue, like mine, is when you take a brief from a Friday to do it on a Monday, all hell goes loose. That, forget about even designing the stand. It's just not functional. You've got to find out, if you've got staff to in fact do that. So I think just to make everything that we're trying to do for EXSA, up a grade and to do the best quality and expectation that comes through. The recommendation I kind of did, and if you've done the poll on the design fees, I'd love to see it. I'm sorry, I was never part of that, but it would be interesting to just get a quick snapshot, in the next week to find out and have a basic line of saying, do you charge for design as member A? What would you do for a render? Have you got a time limit on this thing? Do you charge for overtime work? Do you work on a situation? Do you put mastheads onto it? What is your rights insofar as a client using your same design in 6 months' time? So a quick poll together for the members to find out what the industry is doing at the moment. And then from there, determine the standards or the recommendations that EXSA would say, going forward, the average person charges, I don't know, 5,500 Rand for the first one. Average company does 2,000 Rand for render changes, doesn't charge after that, and needs 3 weeks to do it. That sort of thing. So we can come up as a standard that is not going to fight the industry. And I think it's important that we're having a discussion on design, and we're all coming up with the problems, but not knowing what our neighbors are actually doing. And our neighbors are actually the same team we're fighting on. When we're competitive in nature on an exhibition in a hall. We're competitive in nature insofar as the pitch is concerned with a client, but we're still part of the same team. We're batting for the same time. So the situation is, what is the standard on the bat? What are the rules of the game? How many team players are there, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know. It's just an idea. Liam, I'm happy to put some sort of pen to paper and give you an indication of the kind of questions that would be interesting to do, and we can whip that out in a day.
That'd be great.
And then just edit it and send it out to the guys, and let's find out, and take the average. If the average fee is 2,135 Rand, maybe that's what we should do as a member of EXSA. The one criticism that I do have, as you mentioned it, Liam, earlier, is the quality of the design. Now, unfortunately, I think a lot of you guys and me is stuck with a scenario where we either have a designer in the industry who's been working for us for 30 years on AutoCAD, had the first AutoCAD, was on the actual draft board originally, and understood concepts like a board size is 1830 by 2750. Currently, the problems that we actually have at the moment, and not negating any designers that you guys might have out there, a lot of these millennials we have is working in a situation of what looks pretty according to Google image, as opposed to the practicalities of building an exhibition stand. And this is where the experience comes in. Thank you, Charmaine.
That's classic, Charmaine. Good job.
But I think the experience comes in at what is practical. How does one, you can't always have permanently white, shiny floors. What is the client expectation on it? Is it white tile? Is it a melamine? What is it? So the problem with the millennials is they haven't had a lot of the experience of working in production to understand what the availability of the products are. And it's not really that product's available in Estonia and you get it next Monday. It's what is available in South Africa, given the conversations we had about the timing or the planning that we've actually got in the next 7 days. So those are the problems we have. So even if we do come up with the average spend of 2,322 Rand for an exhibition stand, there is the issue of the quality of the design. And I believe that's really into the pitch scenario. A pitch is only as good, or you're getting clients really is only good as your business card, unless you work for government and you have greenbacks that come via the back pocket. But I'm not going to go there.
Well, that spending's about to be curtailed as well, by all accounts. So.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, look, guys, it's 10 o'clock. Steve, I will send you some information on that previous survey, and then just also maybe what I'll do is I'll send you that sort of table of fees, let's call it, just for you to have a look at, because it's that will kind of speak to what you're saying here. And maybe I'm happy to have a conversation on the side, and then let's get a survey going and sort of see what the status of things is at the moment.
Liam, just quickly then, if you guys are going to do that, maybe do it, again, sooner than later.
Yeah.
Everything seems to be drawn out. Everybody's busy. I fully understand that. And it's just that I worry that we've got this going now. It's got to be run with. Somebody's got to run with it. And if push comes to shove, to start off with, have a level playing field that everybody is charging, if not the same, within certain parameters. But this has got to happen. Everybody has got, all designers have got to start charging for their designs, and especially the EXSA members. And if we can get the non-members who have seen, hang on a moment, the EXSA members that are charging, hang on, these guys are actually doing something. So it's another draw card to get these people on board with EXSA. Yeah. So, yeah, that's just my 5 cents worth. But we've got to get this ball rolling now. It's got to happen.
Yeah. Look, I mean, the ball is rolling. It's just very slow. It just needs to move a lot faster. So, yeah. But guys,
have a lekker day from my side. Sorry, I'm having to run. I've got to get to a meeting.
I think everybody does. So yeah, thanks everybody. I will stick this up on YouTube, and then continue the conversations, and hopefully get those infographics up on the EXSA website ASAP as a first point. Thanks everybody. Have a good day.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.